Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 19th of August, 2022. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So the AllCoreDevs call that I spoke about yesterday that was happening, I guess, yesterday, has happened, and you can see this summary thread from Tim Byko here. Now, this was the call where, I guess, like TTD was formally, I guess, confirmed. We already knew what TTD was from the consensus layer call last week, and that TTD being for the mainnet merge, and there was obviously a bunch of other stuff spoken about on the core dev call as well. I think the two most important things that stuck out to me was the conversation around how Shadow Fork 11 went, which I somehow missed that that kind of like happened, but it happened, and I think we got like a 99%, I guess, a successful shadow fork, which I think there was only a couple of configuration errors. Other than that, everything seemed to go very, very smoothly. And that's obviously really, really good because it shows us what we can expect with mainnet. Now, obviously, well, maybe not obvious to you, but it's obvious to me that I don't think anyone's expecting a perfect merge. And what I mean by a perfect merge is that every single validator on the network, every single execution layer just works perfectly, post-merge. Like literally, as soon as we merge and the slots and blocks continue, it's kind of like I don't expect the things to work perfectly. I don't expect participation rates to stay exactly the same as they are now, but I do expect any fall off in validators to be quickly corrected because of that inactivity leak that we've spoken about before. So that was the kind of like first thing with the shadow fork. The second thing was this long discussion around censorship resistance within Ethereum. Obviously, it has been a huge discussion. I've spoken about it a lot, so I'm not going to rehash my points here, but I was only able to listen to about 10 to 15 minutes of the conversation. It was very, very interesting. Obviously, this core devs call is recorded, or you can read Tim's thread here for a summary of that. But I'm very glad that they decided to speak about it because, look, it is obviously a big issue within Ethereum in terms of kind of like we need to talk about it as much as possible. We need to kind of work around it on the technical and social level. But I think with the core devs and the core researchers, they don't want to explicitly give kind of I guess like anyone any kind of reason to kind of latch onto their words and think what they're saying is kind of like set in stone, so to speak. And an example of this is I saw a couple of minutes of the call get taken and put on Twitter by a Bitcoin maximalist, and they were kind of like going on about how moving to proof of stake means that everything's going to be centralized because of MEV boost. Now, it was taken out of context because with MEV boost, there is now going to be 3 different relayers, one run by flashbots. I think blocks route's going to have 3 different types, but it's still going to, it's still just kind of like one run by blocks route and one run by manifold, and there's probably going to be more. So it's not like we're going to just have one provider that is censoring from MEV, one relayer within MEV boost that is censoring to choose from. We're going to have multiple ones to choose from, and you also have the choice of not running MEV boost at all. I mean, if you really care about censorship resistance, you don't have to run MEV boost on your validator at all. And to be honest, if there's not one ready for at time of the merge that doesn't censor, I won't be running MEV boost. I'm personally happy to give up, a bit of extra revenue on my validators until there is a censorship free relayer, because I don't obviously want to be participating in any censorship on the network at all. Now, the discussion went on obviously longer than that. You can go read Tim's thread for a summary or watch the video yourselves, but I was very, very glad to see that was discussed, because some people would, I guess because the call is usually pretty technical in nature, and there's a lot of people on that call. There's a lot of various different opinions on how to kind of like combat this and how to make Ethereum better. And this isn't like anything new. This has been obviously talked about for years and years, but it's kind of like priorities now, because when you think about it, things like PBS and decentralized, or I guess like censorship resistant relayers or proof relayers and CR lists and shutterized beacon chain and all that sorts of stuff, they can give us better privacy and give us better censorship resistance at layer 1. That it was all kind of, I guess, part of the splurge, right? The nice to haves in terms of just delivering that kind of once we got these other more urgent things delivered, such as scaling. Now, obviously, the priorities have shifted a bit here. I think that not only are things like withdrawals probably going to be, beacon chain withdrawals going to come faster than they otherwise would have, I do think the whole ecosystem is going to try and see what ways we can kind of both the technical and the social layer deal with this risk of censorship, because the risk was always there. Like, we always knew that there was a risk here. We always knew that these networks were censorship resistant, not censorship proof, and that goes for every network. But we didn't have kind of like, an assault on Ethereum's kind of like censorship resistance as we've had with these sanctions on Tornado Cash. So because of that, you basically have this, a very big topic in Ethereum right now where it's come to the forefront, which honestly I'm glad it has, because it means that we're going to become a more resilient network out of this, and it's kind of pushed the entire ecosystem to just face this head on. And the funny thing is that I was talking about this in the Discord channel today, but from my view, and obviously this is just my personal view, it's very anecdotal, but from my point of view, Ethereans will, and I think I mentioned this during the week, but Ethereans will definitely kind of like talk about the hard subjects. They won't try and bury it. They won't try and kind of, put it under the rug or anything like that. They'll talk about it, and talk about it very openly and be very public about it. Whereas from what I've seen in Bitcoin land, just as an example, they seem to sweep things under the rug quite regularly and try to bury them. And I think the clearest example of this is something that they all, or most of them, call FUD, and that's that dwindling block subsidy for Bitcoin, which means they've got a dwindling security budget, which could, in the next two halvenings, make Bitcoin an insecure network. Now, most of the people in the Bitcoin community literally try to sweep this under the rug and call it FUD, which I think is obviously wrong, but they call it FUD because it's coming from the outside camp, right? It's coming from the Ethereans. The Ethereans were the first ones to talk about this, and then some smarter Bitcoiners started talking about it, such as Hazu and Eric Wall, and I think a few others out there. But really, I first started seeing Ethereans talk about this. And within Ethereum, like, obviously, Bitcoin Maximalists have been talking about everything wrong with Ethereum, or what they see wrong with Ethereum. But, like, a lot of it is FUD. But, they're talking about the censorship concerns with Ethereum right now. And I guess they should be talking about it with every network, but obviously they're just focusing on Ethereum. And they're right. Like, they're right to be concerned. We're all concerned. We're all trying to work our way around it. But what gets me is that they kind of, like, look at us discussing this in a very public manner, like discussing it on AllCoreDevs calls, and they look at that and they laugh at that. And it's like, well, I mean, we're discussing it because we want to fix it. We don't believe it's unfixable. We believe that Ethereum will be a stronger network when we kind of like make sure that we deal with all of this, and make sure that we kind of improve the technology and kind of like improve the social layer as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't see that as a weakness. So that's another thing that I've kind of just been paying attention to lately that really makes me happy to be in the Ethereum community. I'm very happy that we can kind of talk about these issues head on. I mean, I haven't personally shied away from this at all. I've talked about it a lot on the Refuel in the last week. It's probably up to an hour and a half of total kind of video time of me talking about this, not to mention all the tweets, not to mention all the discussions in the Discord channel, not to mention all the replies I give even trolls on Twitter, which I shouldn't even be wasting my time on. I've tried my best to kind of like talk about this as much as possible, and a lot of other people have as well. So anyone who kind of says that the Ethereum people are trying to sweep this under the rug or are not kind of responding to the FUD, I mean, we are. And there are some people out there who are very persistent with their criticisms, and they'll keep going on about not getting a reply. And it's like, well, okay, not everyone can reply to everything. Like, I personally can't reply to everything. I'm sorry, like, I just cannot. I'm one person. And a lot of the people who you want to reply to, such as the core devs and researchers, they're busy. I mean, we have the merge still coming up. They're busy doing actual work. They can't just be on Twitter all day responding to your kind of like criticisms. And there have been responses given to some of these people, and they're still not happy, because I think what they're searching for is not the truth. They're searching for what they want to hear. They're searching for people to, I guess, kind of give them the attention that they think they deserve for coming up with these criticisms. And as I've said before, I'm all for constructive criticism, but if you're not going to take the answers that people give you on board, and if you're just going to push back on them and continue in this just endless circle of debate, then it doesn't become it's not constructive anymore. It becomes very destructive to people's time, and people don't want to engage with you if that's all you do on whatever platform it is. So whenever I see criticisms, for me personally, I look at kind of like where the criticisms are coming from. If it's coming from someone that I know literally just hates Ethereum and is a pure kind of like not even a Bitcoin maximalist, but just hates Ethereum, then I'm less likely to reply to that, because there's no point. Because no matter what I say, they're going to still hate Ethereum. They have a bias against it. Whereas if it comes from a person that I consider to be an honest critic, or I consider to be someone relatively neutral, I'll take it much more seriously and do my best to kind of reply and educate to them. And there's plenty of those people, but those ones who just, I know straight up don't like Ethereum and hate Ethereum, like, what's the point? Like, no matter what I say, it's just not going to change their mind. So why even bother, right? But anyway, I'm going to leave that at that for now. A bunch of other things to get through. I just wanted to actually note this, that Hal Press talked about that there was only about 100 people watching the AllCoreDevs call confirming the TTD, which means, as I've been saying for a long time, the merge is not priced in. So many people don't even know what's happening there. A lot of people are focusing on the censorship resistant stuff, which is fair enough. But it's kind of funny how that's overshadowed the merge, and the merge is still coming. It's still going to be an extremely bullish event within Ethereum. But it's kind of funny how there's a large number of people that I guess have forgotten about that, and they're just focusing on all the FUD and all the bullshit because there's just so much noise on Twitter right now. It's crazy, but yeah, I know the price is doing what the price does. I guess I don't expect things to be priced in the short to medium term, but longer term, definitely I expect ETH to just kind of to continue trending up as I normally do. But yeah, I just wanted to note that. Next up, I've got some more Tornado Cash news, or I guess commentary. So this comes from Jake Chervinsky, who is a lawyer. He starts off this thread by saying, "It's been a full week since Dutch authorities arrested a Tornado Cash developer for allegedly concealing criminal financial flows. They still haven't said he did anything but write code. This is a grave injustice. It is unacceptable. Full stop. We deserve an explanation now." And then he goes on to say, "Dutch authorities have given an incomplete and indefensible answers in response to questions from the DeFi Education Fund. They agree that developing a tool is not prohibited, but vaguely and falsely suggest that Tornado Cash was created for the sole purpose of crime. This should go without saying. In a free country, writing code is not a crime. A country that criminalizes writing code is not free. It should be crystal clear that arresting and prosecuting software developers is antithetical to the civil rights that democracies must protect." So, I completely agree with what Jake is saying here. As far as I know, I don't think that this kind of Tornado Cash developer has been charged with anything. And even if he was charged with something, it doesn't feel like the charges would stick if this is kind of like the shaky, I guess, justification that the Dutch authorities are giving. And I've gotten some context on this from friends. This Dutch authority that arrested the Tornado Cash developer, the FIOD, I don't know what that stands for, but that is the acronym of the enforcement agency. Apparently there is an opinion here from Suzuha who kind of shares its opinion that it seems like they jumped to arrest Alex, which is the Tornado Cash developer, with no real justification in an attempt to look good to the Americans, and are now realizing that they have no just cause for holding him. And I believe this because there is a history of kind of the Dutch authorities, or kind of the Netherlands, trying to suck up to the Americans and the Five Eyes more broadly. Five Eyes is kind of this global spy alliance, if you will. You can Google it for more details on that. But the Netherlands isn't part of it. I believe it's Canada, the US, New Zealand. I think Australia is in there. I can't remember the exact numbers, but the Five Eyes, five countries that share intelligence. And it seems like Netherlands is kind of sucking up to them, or at least what I'm kind of seeing here. Actually, I want to know what those countries are, just so I have the right information here. So it's Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States. So those are the Five Eyes. So obviously Netherlands isn't part of that, but yeah, from the context that I've gotten, it seems like they definitely kind of jumped here on this, and it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction to the sanctions on Tornado Cash, and it seems like they don't really have a justification for holding Alex here, which is extremely sad. When you look at this and you look at what Jake has said here, where he's just written code, and that shouldn't be a crime, because writing code and executing code are two different things. If you're going to write code and someone's going to prosecute you for writing that code, even if it hasn't been executed or anything, that's like prosecuting someone for writing words on a piece of paper. And it really is kind of bizarre when you think about that, because if you write on a piece of paper, right, say you're kind of writing a story and you say this character killed this character, right? Should you be tried or prosecuted for murder because you wrote a character that killed another character, right? So it's a loose analogy here, but I think you would see my point, where if you write a piece of code that, Tornado Cash is a, I guess, neutral example here, but say you wrote malware. That's not illegal. That's not a crime to write malware. The crime is writing malware with the intent of using it and executing it on people's machines to steal their information, to ransomware them, to do whatever else, right? That is the crime. And that falls under the computer hacking and that kind of whole broad thing there. The crime is not writing the malware itself. If it was, well, that would be a very dark place to live. And this is, I guess, in the US. I don't know what it's like in every other country, but this is definitely the way it is in the US. So the US, as far as I know, hasn't arrested anyone in connection to Tornado Cash, whether that be the developers or anyone using it, but they may in the future, and Dutch authorities already have. So we'll have to see if this sticks. We'll have to see if they actually end up charging him with anything that sticks. I don't think that they will, from the looks of things, but if they do, I hope that a fund gets set up and we can kind of donate to the fund in order to get Alex good legal representation, because this is an injustice at the end of the day, and we need more information on this, and we need the Dutch authorities to kind of update us on what he's been charged with and what crime he's committed, not with this hand-wavy stuff that they've been trying to do. So I'll link both Jake and Suzuha's threads in the YouTube description. You can go read those for extra context there. All right, so everyone's been talking about decentralizing DeFi front ends lately. Well, people are starting to do that. So you can see here that this account on Twitter, which is qd.eth, tweeted out by saying, you can no longer access your favorite dApps because your address has been blocked. Question: today I'm happy to announce Pineapple, a browser extension that intercepts and mocks requests made by dApps to check if you are sanctioned or not. I think this is ready to use on Chrome, Chromium browsers such as Chrome, Edge, and Brave. No configuration is required. You just have to follow the README, install, and enjoy freedom again. So it's available here on GitHub, and you can go check that out for yourself as well. And then there's also a guide here from Eduardo on how to run your own Aave interface locally with just a few clicks. So this is a proof of concept of how a UI can be generated and used locally in DAppNode from a GitHub repo or a remote decentralized one, and this is the result for Aave. So DAppNode is a kind of piece of software, or I guess like an operating system, so to speak, that you can run on any hardware, and it allows you to basically install all types of blockchain infrastructure, whether that be front ends, as you can see in this decentralized front ends, as you can see in this image. It allows you to run blockchain nodes and validators and all that good stuff there. And you can buy an Avado, which comes installed with DAppNode on it, so you don't have to do anything else except buy the Avado, which is a piece of hardware, have DAppNode installed on it, and then away you go. You'll be able to become much more self-sovereign and be able to use blockchains as they should be used, right? In a fully self-sovereign way. But very, very cool to see that people are already reacting to this. They're already building tools that preserve people's freedoms and allow them to get around these dumb sanctions. And look, the sanctions on the Tornado Cash addresses themselves, like, I get that, whatever, like, that's a whole different discussion. But people being blocked from accessing things because they've been dusted from Tornado Cash, or because they interacted with Tornado Cash back in the day, or because they've interacted with an address that interacted with Tornado Cash, like, that is not on. That to me is a massive overstep, but that doesn't make any sense, and that should be fought back as hard as possible. And that's exactly what we're doing by building these tools. So very, very cool to see these. I'll link both of these in the YouTube description below, and you can check those out for yourselves. All right, so Niraj here has highlighted this kind of massive verified account called Crypto Whale on Twitter that is posting fake news to move the crypto market and hiding anyone who is asking for a source. So they posted this tweet that said, the Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC, has just issued a cease and desist order against Tether and Bitfinex parent company iFinex. SEC says Tether was artificially manipulating the prices of Bitcoin and other emerging asset classes. This is huge. And there's a screenshot of a kind of cease and desist there. And then a bunch of people are asking for the source, and the replies are being hidden, as Niraj said here. The reason why I'm highlighting this is because there is so much, and I hate using this term because it's been poisoned, but there is literally so much fake news on social media, guys. Like, the amount of bullshit that I see every day kind of leads me to believe that most of the stuff you see on social media and just media in general is either a half-truth, misleading, misinformation, or just outright false. Now, because of that, you should never take things at face value. You should always ask for a source or go to the source. You should never listen to anyone, not even me. Like, that's why I link everything in the YouTube description. You can go check it out yourself, follow it up yourself. And any of the opinions that I give, you can challenge in the Discord channel, get other people talking about it. Just don't, like, I mean, I struggle to say question everything because you can drive yourself crazy like that. But don't just, like, automatically believe something, especially if it's something like this, where If the SEC did this, this would be an explosive piece of news. This would be market-moving news. But they didn't do this. It's fake, right? And they deleted this tweet, apparently, and then they kind of posted an old tweet about not trusting and verifying. Well, I mean, that's ironic for them to post, this account, Crypto Whale. But yeah, don't trust what you read. Try and verify it yourself if you can. And if you can't verify it, then don't trust it at all. Because there's not ever going to be just one source for a piece of information. There will be an initial source that the information comes from, a press release or something like that. But then it'll be corroborated across the internet. And even in some scenarios, there can be a source that gets posted and then just repeated across the internet, and the source is actually fake news. So you need to not question everything, not make yourself go crazy, but you need to be aware of these sorts of things, especially in crypto, because of the fact that these things can potentially move the market. There's an incentive to keep putting out this bad information. And of course, there's the tribal elements to it as well, where everyone gets trouble about their investments, and they'll put out misinformation, they'll put out outright lies just to benefit themselves and benefit their following. And there's also this phenomenon of especially the bigger accounts on social media, they have an audience that gives them engagement for certain kind of, I guess, like things that they say. For example, on my Twitter account, like if I tweet about Ethereum, I get much more engagement than I would tweeting about, I don't know, Solana, for example, because my following is predominantly Ethereum people. Whereas a Bitcoin account or a Bitcoin Maximus account, they get a lot of engagement from shitting on Ethereum. Not even from talking about Bitcoin, just from shitting on Ethereum, right? Because a lot of them have that persona of just shitting on anything that's not Bitcoin, especially Ethereum. So if they one day stopped doing that and started praising Ethereum, not only would they get cancelled in question marks, right? They would also, their engagement would drop off and they'd probably lose followers. So there is this kind of perverse incentives on social media where you, depending on what you've built up an audience around, you have to keep doing that. It kind of becomes a flywheel effect where you're not going to get engagement if you suddenly change the way you kind of post content and the way you are on social media. So that's just a perverse incentive that I think will always exist. I don't think there's any real way around that, but I just wanted to talk about that a little bit to put it on your radar there. Yeah, I mean, I'll link this in the YouTube description to see some, if you want to go check out some discussions on this one. So Aztec announced today that they will be co-funding Aztec Connect bridges alongside Balancer to support private swaps and liquidity provisions. The Balancer grants sub-DAO supports projects that build technologies or resources on the Balancer protocol to accelerate development of the BAL ecosystem. Aztec Connect, as you guys know, allows anyone to permissionlessly build bridges from Aztec's private account system to Ethereum, increasing utility for private transactions to include DeFi. This is really, really cool in the face of, I guess, the Tornado Cash sanctions, all the other kind of stuff around privacy on Ethereum. Aztec and Balancer are doubling down here. They want to give people as much kind of freedom as possible, as much privacy as possible, which is awesome to see because Aztec, I believe, is a US-based company, I think, which means that they're kind of probably a target as well, but they're definitely, I guess, on the right side of history here. They're not giving in and they're fighting for privacy because at the end of the day, I mean, they're building a whole company around privacy. So why wouldn't they be fighting for it? And I think, you know, with the Tornado Cash stuff versus Aztec versus other ZK privacy things, it's going to be a case-by-case basis. I think Tornado Cash definitely, as I've mentioned before, I mean, I'm pretty much convinced they got targeted because of the North Korean connection there. But that doesn't mean that Aztec won't one day be used by North Korean, the government, the North Korean government or other sanctioned entities. So I don't know what's going to shake out there. I don't know how that's going to play out because it, I guess, begs to reason that they're going to suffer the same fate. And I hope they don't. And I hope that we can work this out in the courts and make these regulators understand that these privacy-preserving tools are not being made to cater to North Korea to evade sanctions, for example. They're being made for the everyday person. And honestly, the sanctions, all they did on Tornado Cash was hurt regular users because anyone with half a brain cell can still use these things through Etherscan, through their own node, because Tornado Cash is an immutable contract on Ethereum. So really, it just kind of like killed Tornado Cash for regular users who wanted to protect their privacy, which, as I've said before, is very much an overstep and very much, I believe in the US, unconstitutional and will be challenged in the courts. But anyway, good to see Aztec and Balance are doubling down on privacy, especially in the face of all of those sanctions. All right, so the proposal for the Gnosis Safe token distribution is now live on their forum. So if you are eligible to, I guess, get an airdrop of Safe tokens, you can now go to this Google document here, which I'll link in the YouTube description below, and check if your address is eligible. And there's also the eligibility criteria posted to the forum here. Essentially, this is what the token distribution looks like. Core contributors are getting 15%. The Safe Foundation is getting 15%. The ecosystem is getting 5%, the users are getting 5%, and the community treasury is getting about 60% here. So, I mean, pretty standard by the looks of things. I guess distribution here. I think the Safe Foundation in it has 8% for the strategic raise and 7% for grants ecosystem. So it means that 8% of the supply is going to early investors, which is actually on the better side of things than what we've seen. 15% the core contributors also on the better side of things. And it seems that the ecosystem gets the lion's share here, which I really like. But again, most of these tokens are going into DAOs, like the Safe DAO treasury and the Gnosis DAO treasury, and then a joint treasury. So, you know, they'll probably be paid out over time, but in terms of what the users are getting, right away, or I guess like guaranteed, is this 10% of ecosystem and user allocation here, which obviously includes the airdrop. So you can go read the forum post for full details on this and check your address if you want to see if you're eligible. All right, so GitPOAP has announced their $4 million seed round to continue memorializing your contributions and accomplishments as GitPOAPs. Also today, GitPOAP is ready for any open source Web 2 or Web 3 project to use, and you can start onboarding at gitpoap.io/onboard. Now, disclosure, I participated in this seed round here. I know one of the founders. He is an awesome guy. I met him in Amsterdam and instantly became good friends with him. I love what kind of like they're building here with GitPOAP, and kind of giving people the opportunity to build out, as they say here, a decentralized professional reputation system using POAP, which I also love, and I mean, I'm sure all of you love as well. So it's great to see them raise this 4.3 million from a bunch of kind of investors here, such as Inflection here, POAP, Protocol Labs, and a bunch of angels, as you can see here in the tweet, but also you can see it in the press release as well. So if you want to learn more about GitPOAP and about their raise and everything like that, I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to do so. But yeah, I mean, this will give them some nice runway to keep developing out their vision here. Always love to see these kind of, I guess, like teams getting funded and these kind of experiments playing out, because again, this is another non-financial use case that I think can be really big and I think can actually go somewhere rather than a lot of the non-financial use cases that we've seen that just haven't gone anywhere. This is one that I'm super psyched for, definitely. So definitely check that out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, so speaking of POAPs, just wanted to put this on your radar. There apparently is going to be an ultrasound POAP at the post-merge. So you can see here, there's the ultrasound money, I guess, emojis, the bat and the loudspeaker, and then there's the POAP there. I'm going to get my hands on this, whatever it takes. There's only going to be 1,559 of these POAPs. I wonder what the eligibility criteria is going to be. I hope that I'm just automatically eligible for the fact that I am number one on ultrasound.money in terms of, if you scroll down to the bottom here, I'll actually bring up the website. If you scroll down to the bottom here, there's the join the fam. So put the bat signal in your Twitter name. I'm number one here in terms of the amount of people that follow me that have the bat signal in their name. So I'm hoping I'm just eligible based on that, because like that's all I got. But yeah, I really want to get my hands on one of those. Everything got to do with 1559 and the merge in terms of POAPs, in terms of like NFTs. I just want to get my hand on, that's for sure. But just wanted to put it on your radar there. I'll update you when more details come out, but I think that's going to be it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all next week. Thanks everyone.